Hello folks, welcome along. We're back with the Left Wing Back Champ Pod. Over the next number of weeks, we'll be looking back on both Joe McDonagh Cup games. Obviously, I'd like to be saying Leinster Senior Championship football games. There will be Tailteann Cup in a few weeks' time, obviously. We'll delve into the reasons why in a couple of moments. No sponsor this evening. If anyone wants to get in touch with us, there's absolutely no hassle whatsoever. But we're happy to provide the service to you guys, and we do appreciate the feedback that we've got so far. And onwards and upwards for the podcast. Big year ahead yet. We're still very early in the infancy of the podcast and very early in the infancy of the season. So yeah, look, we have a good bit to go through this evening. We're going to be chatting about Carlow versus Louth in the Leinster Senior Football Championship first. In a couple of moments' time, I'll be joined by Tommy Wogan, former selector. Joe Nolan, my regular co-host, will be here as well. And Dan Bannon from the Loud and Proud podcast. This is the away leg because I was actually on the Loud and Proud podcast last week and we had some really good discussions. It's actually worth checking out from the point of view of general content, not just loud content. There's very good stuff in there that's applicable to every county indeed. Paul Coady will be joining us then when we turn our attention to hurling around 9:30. We've got to get through a bit of ladies football, a bit of camogie, minor hurling, minor football, all along the way too. As I said, we're live on Facebook, YouTube and Twitter. If you want to get in touch with us, you can just drop a comment under any of those places. We are kind of on a slightly different platform, but we should be able to maybe get a comment or two up on the screen, all going well, if we can work it with the powers that be here. So yeah, that's the general gist of how the evening is going to roll along. So let's get into the nitty gritty. Joe Nolan, how are you getting on?
Great, Kevin, and you?
Sure, flying it. Back once again. I'm the Renegade Bastard, not going to start singing. Yeah, but we're back. I have a Left Wing Back podcast top for you, and it's probably a good time to mention that we have some really nice jerseys that we're after getting our hands on. Limited supply, limited stock. They're not going to cost the world, but if anyone wants them, DM us. We do have a few other bits and bobs along the way too. Yeah, what have you made of the weekend in general before we delve into things? I suppose it's disappointing from a results point of view. Not too many surprises, I don't think, with the Louth result. You know, we urge patience and stuff. We're probably a bit of a surprise with the extent of the defeat to Kerry in the Joe McDonagh.
Yeah, I suppose it was, Kev. Yeah, I suppose the footballers that we talk about were kind of going up with a shot to nothing, if you get me, you know, in terms of we probably weren't expecting a win there, but maybe a performance. But yeah, the hurlers probably, you know, was disappointing, and probably the manner of the defeat in terms of maybe how we went down. And I suppose all around with our minor hurlers getting pipped, with our you know, a couple other results over the weekend, should I say, not going our way. It hasn't been a good weekend in terms of GAA and Carlow, but you have all them, and I suppose you know, we've had some good ones, so maybe we'll be turning the corner soon, hopefully.
Mm-hmm. Tommy Wogan, how are you keeping?
Good, Kev. Good.
Thanks for jumping on with us once again. I know you're in the thick of it with Éire Óg this year. You were up there in Navan yesterday. What did you make of it? Your opening thoughts?
Yeah, look, it was a tough day for the lads, unfortunately. But as I said to you in a previous broadcast, they're a young team. They're a very young team, and look at a few things didn't go their way in the first half. Like, you know, thought, you know, a few other kickouts went astray on us and put pressure back on us on our back line, and we conceded soft goals. You know, and you can see them, like, you know, it's very hard to come back from it. But I thought the battle hard. You know, within a half time, you know, in a good place. I thought we were in a good place at half time, but Louth just put everybody back behind the ball, back at the 45, like, you know, and made it difficult for Carlow to break them down, like, you know, and they kind of hit Carlow in the break then, like, you know. So it was a difficult day for them, but there was some good, you know, some good performances of it. Having said that, like, you know, the lads tried their hearts out, like, really ran themselves into the ground. You know, Liam Roberts tried his damnedest there in the back line. I thought he gave it all to it, like, you know. Josh Moore, Darragh O'Brien just covered every blade of grass. He emptied the tank in that game big time. I was surprised that young Brennan being taken out, to be honest, in the middle of the field. That was a bit of a surprise to me. I thought he was going well. I thought in the second half that we needed to do to Louth what they'd done to us, and just choke up the backline for a while, and try and frustrate them, and hit them on a break. But we left ourselves exposed at the back, and they ran through us and picked off scores. But look, you couldn't fault the lads for their effort. They tried their damnedest, and all over the pitch, if there was a thing, I was kind of surprised that when they brought in Murta Ware, I would have brought Murta to midfield. I would have shoved Louth out to midfield, and I would have pressed them. I would have really gone on a full press on them and make them go to the middle of the field. We never really found out what they were like around the middle of the field on a kick out, because we gave up the kick out every time to them, so they could build their attacks. Which that kind of surprised me a bit, that we could have looked at that option maybe for ourselves, but yeah, look at it. It's a difficult one. It's a difficult day for Carlow footballers, but look, please God, they'll bounce back.
The press is something that myself and Joe were talking about as well. In terms of, do you know the way Louth's style is to turn the ball over and get forward at pace? So if you give them the ball straight away, they're so used to working it forward. Does that not play into their hands a little bit?
Yeah, well, Kevin, it's got Louth played a system yesterday that we played, and people said it was terrible to look at. It was horrible to look at, but they're getting results. They're doing now what we done, and we got results. So we made it very difficult for teams to break us down. Okay, people said it was horrible to look at, but Louth are doing it now. I don't hear anybody talking, or didn't hear anybody say about negative football or any of that stuff. They played to their strengths. They didn't allow Carlow have any inroad into their backline. They just shut the whole thing down and made it very difficult for the lads to get in there to get shots off. And so, it's gas, isn't it? I don't hear anybody talking about that, but Louth were putting a lot of bodies back behind the ball.
Yeah.
But I do think about it, Tommy. I think the big difference between Louth's bodies behind the ball and ours, and I happen to look back in it there, think back in the day there, and looking at the intensity of the tackle, I thought there was a massive difference in terms of. I'm thinking of the second goal. Now, literally, you might say you never laid a hand on him. We literally didn't touch a Louth player from their kick out.
Yeah.
Till the ball went into their net.
Yeah.
And we put lots of bodies back because we conceded a kick out in terms of we dropped back. We'd no player nearly inside their 45. And I think that was the one thing for me that was a little bit maybe lacking yesterday. You can't fault work rate, you can't fault effort. And I appreciate all that. But I'd say if the lads were looking back on it, they'd probably say, well, whatever about conceding a kick out or conceding territory and being organised at the back and having bodies back, that we'd make use of those bodies. And I think, I don't know, I don't know how to pin it down, but that kind of summed up kind of our day when we'd plenty of bodies back, but we'd no tackle. You know what I mean? Literally no tackle. I think that was a disappointing point for me. I'd say, sorry, not for me. I'd say the lads will be a little bit disappointed that maybe there wasn't that intensity in the tackle, when Louth were pressing us, because we had to work so hard. If you think of how when Louth were pressing us, every time we had a ball, there was 1 and 2 men lighting on us. Yeah,
we'll get pressed up on our kick out.
Yeah, and it's something, again, not being as big a football man as you two, but I'd agree with Kevin's point there in terms of if you're given an attacking team and they're, if you're giving them a platform to attack, is it kind of a false economy? Like if you're kind of saying, well, we'll hang back here and we'll mind the house, but if the house isn't really been minded, like are you inviting them too far up the field in terms of you're giving them too much ground in terms of an attacking platform, like.
Yeah, well, I mean that's unfortunately. Well, at the start of the game, we held the ball for something short of 3 minutes.
It's
Yeah.
3 minutes, literally on the
3 minutes,
dot,
yeah,
I think.
bang on,
Yeah,
Yeah.
we held the ball very well, but we had no focal point inside, like mean to get the ball in there. No, but that could, we could get a ball in there that could hold it up, like. And we were playing around the fringes, and
Yeah.
there was nobody making them runs inside in order so we could pick off a pass inside. Like, it's in the previous podcast about, always play with your head up, but there was nothing inside to put, couldn't put a ball in because there was nobody in there. We were on the fringes. We were walking around the fringes the whole time. Whereas with them, they had runners. They had runners coming from all sides. They broke at pace, and they caught us a few times on that. But
Tom, do you know what the interesting thing is, right? So I heard a couple of people say about Carlow's possession percentage. That doesn't matter a shite, right? And I'll tell you why, because Louth will let you have the ball outside the 45 and within certain fragments inside it once it's out of the danger zone. So you can have 85% possession if you want, but you're not getting a shot off in the scoring zone. That's the crucial thing. And it is the prime example of counter-attacking football. There's 5-10 on the board. That's the only stat that matters at the end of the day, and Carlow 10 points. And it's how you go about making that happen and how good you are at getting from A to B. Like.
Yeah, but if you look back on the game, we got in a few times in the first half, but for the final pass just went astray on us. We were in for goals. I think it was Darragh Foley possibly unlucky not to get a goal, or Jamie Clark got in as well. So we did get in, but we just didn't get to finish it off,
Yeah,
whereas they were more rooted. They were more rooted than us,
It's an opportune time to bring in Dan Bannon from the Loud and Proud podcast. Dan, you're here for the away leg. I was on with you last week. We said we bring you back. Just to take you up on, or take Tommy up, I suppose, on what he said and bring you in on it, in terms of a lot of people would have been giving out about Carlow and their style, but we were getting results. Is there many people giving out up there? I would doubt it, considering you're winning games.
There was a little bit of, I suppose, murmurings when results weren't going well. We were beaten by Laois. We drew at Longford when we should have won, and then we get the win in Limerick, and it turns the season around. Like Tommy says, it's all about perception. Once you're winning, and once you're getting scores, and once you're beating teams, it doesn't really matter how you're playing. Because I think the way it's going now, modern football, and there's for passages of the game yesterday, both sides were happy to just sit and face each other. And Tommy makes a great point as well. Darragh Foley is a great goal chance. Josh Moore in the counter-attack as well. There was Louth give up goal chances early on in that game. Just Carlow didn't take them. And I know people in Louth are saying we didn't play well and we still won by 15 points. But there's a couple of opportunities that Carlow did play well in patches and should have punished us. And that's probably the difference in it. Louth really, really were clinical yesterday when they had to be. Getting the Joe and Tommy says about those goals where Carlow didn't lay a hand on us. We pressed them. We just, from a Louth perspective, it was always going to be tricky playing Carlow, but we had to kind of play to a certain level and take our chances when they were coming and just kind of breeze the game after that. It was kind of about managing the minutes and just controlling the game. And once we got the lead early on, even when that goal, 17-minute Conor Grimes gets the goal off that kick out, you couldn't see Carlow even coming back from that early stage.
No. It's interesting to see your former midfielder playing in goal.
Yeah, and that was a big thing as well, Tommy. We pressed it really hard. He hasn't James. He's really good midfielder. He would have played midfield against Carlow in Portlaoise a couple of seasons ago, but he hasn't come out as much as aggressively as he had in previous games. He's come out in patches, say against the end of games against Limerick and the league. But that was obviously a tactic from Mickey and Gavin to press really hard. That was the hardest we pressed. I don't know whether that was just they seen the video work or they took a chance, but it was definitely something that Louth really worked on yesterday.
Yeah, well, I was just paying attention to Mickey Hart before the game started, and he was really honing in on Carlow's warm up, and he was obviously paying attention on our goalkeeper, possibly on his kickouts and stuff like that. But I did notice at one stage, during the game, where he told your goalkeeper to go back, that he didn't need him down the pitch, that you had a good lead. There was no need for him to be down that high, and just sent him back up the pitch, you know. But yeah, it was interesting to see him in the goal, you know.
Yeah, and it's just funny the way things work out. The first choice goalkeeper kind of pulls out Craig Lynch at the start of the season. They're scampering then. They trialed a couple of goalies in the Bourne Cup, didn't go that well. They played Martin McEnany. He was sub-goalkeeper, still sub-goalkeeper in the opening game. And they worked on getting James Califf in off-season. Because he just, after Craig Lynch decided to come out, and it was put to him. Like, he's never played in goals at adult level. He would have been a talented goalkeeper now when he was younger, soccer, but never in goals. So it's a bit of a master stroke, and one of the reasons why we got promoted. But it really was apparent in pressing. But the fact that Cunningham kept kicking long as well, it took him a long time to knock it short to your cornerbacks, Robertson. And the chap, Liam Roberts, you mentioned he was quite good. And another thing, Tommy, before I forget, the substitutions. Kevin might talk about that later on, but I really would like to talk about the substitutions Niall Carew made, because I felt they were detrimental.
Well, I don't know what was young Bannon in the middle of the field, whether he was injured or took a knock or that. But I was surprised at him going off.
Yeah, he didn't look injured, to be honest.
Yeah, but I would have put Murta in the middle of the field. I would have brought Louth out around the middle as well, and I would have gone to war, which is out there. Would have seen what was in your midfield in that area, pressed you high, you know, and look, but we didn't do that, you know.
But even Tommy, the way Niall Hickey was messed around, like the chap, we were all told in the press room, two teams are starting as the programme. And then just as the teams were being announced, late change, Niall Hickey doesn't start. Then they bring him on after 11 minutes and then take the chap off. He actually played quite well. He kicked a good point. Considering that. And then another one that I can't phantom, and it's always been the case. I've seen Ross Murphy play. You know him fairly well, I'd say. Or Ross Dunphy, I should say.
Ross Dunphy, yeah.
I don't know how that chap doesn't start for Carlow I don't know.
Well, I think no, I think Ross is in his final year in UCC, and he was doing his masters, and I think he might have, you know. No, I'm only speculating that he was doing his masters and that, and so he wasn't able to make training as regular as he would have liked it. Well, I agree with you. He's a fine footballer. He's a fast actor, all right. You know, and he proved it when he came on. He kicked the 2 points. But then, having said that, we lost young Bambrick very early in the game. When you know, he obviously was carrying a knock, and they obviously tried to get as much as they could out of him. But unfortunately, it didn't last long. We lost him very early in the game, and that's when Niall came in then.
Yeah. No, it was just strange from a Louth perspective. You know, even young Buggy was playing quite well too.
Yeah, but he went off. I think he was injured.
Was he injured? Okay.
Yeah, I've seen him now. Actually, it's strange that you bring it up, because I said it to my friend that I noticed him going back to pitch, and I thought he wasn't running right. Okay. And then shortly after that, then they took him off. So, Shane's a good lad, and that's his first year senior. You know, he's a young chap. See, that's what I said to the boys. Carlow's a very young team in comparison to a lot of the team that I would have been involved with Carlow and the lads. There's a lot of them boys gone, like, so it's practically a whole new team, like, you know.
There's plenty to work with, like they're athletic, you know, to cover the ground and pace wise and that as well.
Yeah.
And, you know,
Bit of bulk probably needed, Dan. In fairness, it's probably the standout, isn't it? Like, because there is obvious football and talent. There is pace. I think they really need to just get the S&C part. And it's fairly evident, like.
Yeah, that's the thing, Kevin. But we have to be realistic, like, you know. We have to be patient with these lads. We got to back them. We got to get in with them and support them, and put, you know, be there for them, like, you know. I mean, what I found very disappointing yesterday, like, the amount of support that was there for Louth was phenomenal.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been that far away, Tommy. Now, Navan was more or less a home tie. We've played like it's a handicap over for us.
Yeah, but still, like, you know, I mean, you know, a championship game, and we should be there. We should be supporting them lads. We should, all them lads are coming from clubs, and everyone in the clubs in Carlow sure should have organised the bus and to bring their people up to support these lads. They're a young team. They're young lads, so they needed the support. But when I looked across at the terrace was basically Louth. It was covered in Louth, red all
that's
over.
happened. That has happened at our home league games as well, where we've been outnumbered.
The Leitrim game in particular was one where it was very evident anyway, wasn't it, Kev? I think we had that one together. I can't remember, but I remember it was a Stevie I was standing beside. We were well outnumbered that day as well.
Yeah,
at home in the league.
Have you noticed that, Dan? Do you know when things weren't going as well? Is the number still fairly solid from a Louth point of view?
No. Look at it. It's Division 3 and Division 4 football. When you wouldn't be getting those attendances. Early on in the league, like I mentioned, in fairness though, momentum was with us, but we would have had a lot of supporters in RD. A lot of people would have came to the home games in RD, even when we weren't going well. We would have got a good crowd out. And then yesterday was momentum was with us. We're always going to have a good crowd there. Crow Park the same. There's that bit of feel good factor and kind of let's go and support the lads, and we might get entertained and see a win as well. So I suppose Louth support them taking 10. Yeah, Kevin.
I fancy you guys to do a job on Kildare, to be honest. I think you are actually set up very well to do it. And you have kind of suckered them before. I recall, I think that run in 2010 in particular. I know, we're comparing different eras, but definitely there was a majestic performance against them.
But if you think of it, Kevin, if Louth are playing the system that we played, Kildare won't like it.
Yeah, I don't
think
so.
You beat them the year after you beat us in 2019, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But that game is in Tullamore, Dan, which is kind of a bit odd, I think.
Come on, Dan. Same again.
I know it's a tough one. It's a tough one away now. It's a fair travel for Louth fans, and the timing of it as well is 4:00. So a lot of grumblings now about that selection. We thought it might have been Navan again, but seemingly Meath and Wicklow have a home and away kind of deal done. We have no home and away thing with Kildare, but Portlaoise, I don't know. That would have probably suited both sides, I'd say, to get a big crowd in there, and it suits Louth more, and the motorway just dipping off it. But so Tullamore it'll be tough and the timing of it, and we haven't played there, and Kildare would have. So it'll be a big step up from yesterday too.
Can we talk about I suppose we've touched on styles and stuff, but I have to be honest, right? A lot of the analysis nowadays on our provider's station leaves a lot to be desired. It's just, I could think of a few words, but I'm not going to say it because it's just not good enough, really. It's lazy. It's kind of, we'll watch a bit of this and we'll have a bit of homework done and throw away comments as if they know these lads they're watching every league game and stuff. And I just don't like that personally. But attacking football is back. Now, I would go the other way and people would say it's negative. But if you look at just say, I suppose some of the goals that Carlow conceded yesterday, not only that, but look at the Laois and Wicklow game and some of the goals that Laois conceded. I would just say that is out and out. That's not, yes, the moves are finished off well from an attacking sense, but it's pathetic defending, which has to be put out there as well.
But I think
for a bit of balance,
Yeah, but I think some of that, Kevin, comes when we kind of bantered about it as well, that. It's great having bodies back, and we play.
But you have to be doing something when you're back, don't you?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
And we say this the whole time, even from, and Tommy, you'll know this from a coaching point of view. Getting back is actually half the job. But it's the one thing that a player would fall into the trap of. When he's back, he thinks the job is done. No, that's when the work begins.
No. That's when the real work starts. Once you're set up, once you're setting your, in your defensive play. Anything that comes in around there needs to be your hand has got to go on a forward. You can't let a forward float in there and just float back out again. There needs to be contact put on him, and too often, forwards are in fairness, Mulroy, what has he scored? 351. He's a dangerous one. He's a dangerous forward, so he needs special attention. You can't just allow him just be getting into the score zone and not attention being put on them, like, you know. So it's very important, like, you know, in your backline, the backline is all on the same wavelength, like, you know, that you can't switch off. You switch off at this level, you're going to get punished.
I
Even
think
for the first
players.
goal,
Sorry, Joe. I think players now are a lot more skillful. Like years ago, you could have got men behind and they would have been clogged down. They would have chose to kick the ball. I think players are so good in possession now. The kicking game is so good that a lot of sweepers have become redundant. You know, and then now it's torn the other way where defenders aren't used to defending like 1-on-1. You know, that kind of side of the game is fairly well documented, but it's gone kind of as compared to used to be mano a mano. You know, I think we've lost that edge. I think that's what wins you all Ireland's and wins you titles if you have two. On the two ends of the field, if you have a top scorer that'll finish and then a stopper or a couple of stoppers at the back, you'll go a long way in the championship.
But I think that some of that like comes from what we're, you know, what would you say, like, again, where we adopt, even at club level or whatever, you know, we adopt on numbers back, bring numbers back.
Yeah.
And sometimes the art of defending then is lost in the numbers, if you get me, in the numbers game. Do you know what I mean?
Big time, yeah.
And you know, and we didn't have we didn't, you know, that was the one thing. Apart from tactics and pressing and everything, it was just, I just thought that our lads would be very disappointed when they look back on it in terms of the. I won't say the commitment to the tackle or whatever. It's not a commitment issue. It's just the lack of tackling, the lack of, like, even for the first goal, we did go along to the middle of the field. The ball was broken down to a Louth man standing completely on his own.
Yeah.
5, 6, 7, 8 yards of space. When they're playing with a breeze, like with a gale force breeze, and with no one on him. And he 2 choices. He actually could have turned and probably put it over the bar, but they played it through, and the first goal came from it. Like, I think they'll be very disappointed about the basics like that in terms of, you know, their engagement and how I think you know, I would never question their commitment, never question their work rate, never question anything like that. But I think the lads themselves would be just disappointed that they didn't, you know, that they didn't bring more of a battle to you know, to Louth when Louth were pressing them.
Lads, I have to move it on slightly. Sorry, now just one final point, Dan.
Yes.
We spoke last week about availability of club players. Did Louth pull a U-turn on what you kind of had said last week with lads outside the 26 being made available?
Yeah, Mickey ended up, I think he ended up releasing, say, the bottom 10 of the 40 of the panel that he's working with. He ended up releasing them in the end, probably because a little bit of pressure, but they probably wouldn't be used, and maybe a little bit of common sense come in.
Yeah, it is common sense, isn't it? Like, after all, when we spoke about it last week on your Loud and Proud podcast, like, I think it was common sense. And Tommy, you're involved with the club, so maybe you'll be able to kind of confirm or deny this, but during the period between the league and the championship, I suppose most of your old players are probably actually playing, which is a good thing from your point of view. But in general, would you be aware of players being made available to their clubs that weren't, say, in the 26? I know one lad in particular hasn't played a full game since a club championship encounter last year. And I just have my doubts about where the benefit is for that player and the club.
Well, for the player, especially if the player is not getting game time, like, I mean, he should be allowed back into his club to play some football, because realistically, I mean, every manager and selectors know deep down, like, whether they're going to be using that player or not. And if they're not going to be using him, he should be allowed to go back to his club and let him play a bit of football and get his confidence going again, like, you know. But as it stands at the moment, there's none of the players are available to any clubs. Now, we can see the other side of it as well, Kevin. It's like this: like, if you allow one or two players to go back to their clubs, then you're going to get other clubs saying, like, "Oh, well, why can't we have our player?"
Yeah, but they have to have common sense, Tom. They should know, like, that their player is playing a lot more time than the other lad. Like, I mean, any coach worthy saw manager.
But I think, Kevin, with club managers, they're under pressure to get results, and they don't care. Every club wants their county man. I think what is kind of the point I was making, and what Mickey has brought in, is he's protecting, maybe not to Samuel Rise by having this kind of closed off rule on your panel. It's nearly the players in, say, the say 13 to 20. You know, that range. The lads not out of the panel altogether, but lads breaking into the team or maybe just in around the team, and it's protecting those, keeping them united, and that's the thing as well. It's keeping the bunch very united, you know, and not
But,
having them fragmented and going off and playing league matches against each other. They're
no,
very tight. Like it's kind of like an elite setup, if you know what I mean. At the
but
moment,
Dan, our league is crazy. There's no relegation in our league, in senior league.
okay.
No. It's just a mess. I think to be quite honest, I think it's a mess. The games are just meaningless. Like, I mean, there's no bite in it at all whatsoever. Like, I mean, I find it frustrating. Like, I mean, there's walkovers in games and that. Like, and I just can't understand it. I can't understand the logic in it at all. Like, I mean,
that's due to the regrade in the championship, isn't it, Kevin?
Well, sure, that's the thing. Whatever grade
Yeah.
you're playing at in championship, you're going to play at in league. And I'd just question, you know, and Joe and Tommy, we would have spoke about this several times. It's one of the pet hates I have at the moment in regards to just making that a bit more beneficial, making it a bit more important, because at the moment it's just a bit monotonous. It's kind of like a pre-season tournament.
for chance games.
Sure, it's come there, it's come there, go there, like, you know what I mean? And even at that, it's a bit of shadow boxing as well, like.
They
You know,
tried to do that, Kevin. They tried to bring in that in Louth in the off season, to make it promotion relegation in the championship. And the reason why it wasn't, kind of the main reason why it wasn't backed, was that reason. It makes your leagues uncompetitive. You know, and you're playing a lot more league games than championship games. So you've lads there, like we've seen it in lockdown. I don't know what way you did it, but we had no relegation or promotion in the 2 years of lockdown. And like Tommy said, walkovers, there was like just challenge matches sort of feel to it. Like, it was no real benefit at all. So you need to bring the competitiveness into any competition you have, especially your league games where you're playing majority of your football.
You're bringing lads down. There's lads coming down from Dublin to train with us. Coming down 2 nights a week, like, you know, and then hoping for they're asking, will we have a league game this weekend? Is it on or is it off? Like, you know, and we're saying, well, we don't know yet. We're waiting on word. Like, I mean, sure, that's no way to go.
No, you can't build on that at all.
It's hard to plan for, yeah. Lads, I'm going to have to move on a bit. Dan, thanks a million for coming on. Really enjoyed the chat on the Loud and Proud podcast last week, and thanks for coming on the Left Wing Back podcast tonight. We'll have a chat again at some stage, all right?
Absolutely.
Best of luck to yourselves and everybody in Louth in your next game with the Kerry.
Thanks, lads. Thanks, Tommy. Thanks, Joe.
All the best. Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, so just on that as well, we have a couple of other things football related. So the Carlow Miners are playing on Wednesday evening, I think, lads, at 7 in Netwatch Cullen Park against Offaly, as far as I'm aware. So we want to wish them the very best luck, Damien and the lads. Carlow ladies footballers played Wexford on Friday. Not a great result for them, but again, long season ahead. Let's see what happens. We'll continue to follow their progress. And just looking down through the agenda, I suppose, I was just on a separate note, and it's kind of slightly wise for bringing this in. We were time constraints, but I enjoyed the Division 3 game between Loughlin Bridge and Old Loughlin the other night. I thought was really good. You know, just nice to. And there was a chap there on the panel, like, and that's the lad I'm referring to, like, who had told me he hadn't played a game. He's there looking at this whole game and doesn't see a minute yesterday. And I don't know. I just don't know, lads. I really don't. And it's not just exclusive to football. It's been happening in other camps as well, and even down through underage level. It just have me doubts.
It's a hard one to call, Kevin. I mean, I see both sides of it. I mean, I know you can't beat playing. Then other managers will turn around and say, well, look, just be devil's advocate. Like, would a lad get more from 2 training sessions with the best players in the county in an in-house game, or being released back to a league game, which may or may not have a bit of bite in it, or may not be to a standard? Like, being devil's advocate here, I'm not saying I know from the point of view of both sides, because I know from the point of view, even being tight for players for fielding, and I suppose we see it maybe from a hurling point of view as well. With you'd have at the minute we've Leinster League and we've Kilkenny League games, and numbers are tight between lads who've gone with panels and like that. So I do see it from both sides. But I suppose maybe from a county management point of view, maybe that's their thinking on it. Like, and I think what Dan said there about the idea of kind of ring fencing lads and keeping them in that kind of county thinking or that county frame is maybe what Mickey Hart's thinking is on it, like, you know. But I know I see it from both sides. I do see it from both sides.
Okay. Well, listen, we'll leave it there. Tommy, thanks for jumping on with us again.
All
And
right.
the very best luck. We'll chat to you again soon, all right?
No bother, Kev. God bless.
There we go. Tommy
Take care.
Wogan.
See you,
So
Tommy.
we turn our attention to hurling now, and obviously on Saturday, the Joe McDonagh Cup encounter between Carlow and Kerry. It ended Carlow 15 points, Kerry 321. Something that I don't think anyone saw coming, especially after the really good performance against Meath. I don't know. I suppose we're going to chat a little bit about this, and the consistency was the big thing for me. We spoke about it throughout the league, and unfortunately, it's kind of reared its ugly head again when it comes to championship. I'm going to bring in Paul Coady here straight away to ask him the question. Paul, straight in at the deep end. How are you keeping?
Hey, how are you, Kevin? Thanks
$1 million question, I
I
suppose. And I'm sure no more than anyone, the players especially, are scratching their heads. 2 games together, it's a bit of a struggle this season in terms of performance.
It is, yeah. If we knew the answer to that question, we'd sort it out and we'd fix it straight away. But it is an issue, yeah. It's hard to put your finger on it. Saturday was very, very disappointing. It was embarrassing, is what it was. I don't think we're 15 points worse than Kerry, and I don't think we're 25 points better than Meath. But it's kind of in between that, and it's Saturday. It wasn't even a result that it annoyed me. It was kind of just the fucking basic errors and just the sloppiness and the 3 goals you can see. There were 3 poor goals, and it was just the general even standard. It was embarrassing, yeah.
And I would have said to Joe that I felt you take whatever opposition it is. Like, so if it was Meath, Kerry, or Limerick, whoever it was our basic handling errors and ball skills and hurling skills in general that was a disappointing element of it, regardless of what pace you were trying to do that.
Yeah, definitely. That's, you can talk about Kerry, like, and Kerry are a good team, but the personnel matchups for that, you still fancy yourselves every day against Kerry, and that's kind of why. Like, looking at it, they played seven backs. Mikey Boyle was a sweeper. The first half, they kind of left another wing forward, kind of dropped back to middle field half backs. They kind of had 8 backs. They ran the ball, and we didn't adapt to it at all. We didn't figure it out. We didn't work smart. And that's the kind of disappointing thing. Like, you have to be able to think on your feet. And in hindsight, I was kind of looking at it. I was like, Jesus, a water break would be ideal here. After 15-20 minutes to kind of figure it out, because we didn't know what we were doing. We were poking it to them. We weren't working through the lines, and we were kind of like almost looked like we're shifting responsibility a small bit to the next lad and the next lad. And collectively we needed to be taking ball and creating an overlap, because we had 3 men at our end of the field basically to draw them out. And that's the disappointing thing. It was the overall just standard at hurling. And the standards that we'd have for ourselves as individuals just was very poor on Saturday. And the other side of that then is kind of you want next Saturday to come as quick as it can, like,
exactly.
You want to come quick, like, and if there's any salt in it at all, or any substance to any of us, there'll be a response on this Saturday.
Absolutely. Can I just take you up on working it through the lines, because obviously there was breakdown with trying to do that, and I understand where you're coming from with Mikey Boyle dropping back and a wing forward dropping back. Having said that, we have a big breeze, we have a ball, we've time to get our head up, we've time to actually bypass that. Is it hard to deviate away from that plan? Should you kind of deviate away from that plan? Like, do you play off the cuff? Where's the balance with all of this? Like,
you kind of, it comes back down to quality as well. Like, the ball in has to be good. You can't just hit it down the centre. Hitting ball in and play Mikey Boyle is at the D, then the ball has to be landed inside the 21, either side of the goal post, basically. Like, and that cuts out the sweeper. But to do that, then you can't poke it from your full back line. You got to get to the 65 to pick the man out. Like, and we had enough space around our own 45 to get out as far as the 65 comfortably, which we weren't doing. And then you obviously then with them playing and us having men, like basically the balls we put long, we're landing on the 45, 65, we're landing that square. There weren't like very few ball landed inside the 21, you know, left or right of Chris. One ball I can picture where it broke just on the right of Chris and he put it over the bar. So we didn't use Mouse or Chris effectively with the wind. It's all well and good saying put him in and land it on him and take a puck out long. Like it's like that don't work. Like, you know.
Is it too obvious to say stand in front of Mikey Boyle? Put one of them out in front of him.
Yeah, there was a kind of a plan in place that you know, we said that someone has to kind of sacrifice themselves from the full forward line to come to the sweeper and leave the other man free. Who doesn't want to be free? That's just basics. That's what's kind of pissing me off. Like that's just a basic thing. Like Mikey.
Sorry, Paul. The one thing actually, Brendan Coady, I remember even telling lads 15 years of age one time at a coaching session, like whoever they have as the free man, you disrupt their system straight away. Do you know what I mean? You it's no more than with Waterford. Like if you tied the worker when he was the kind of loose man in their old system, you know, why not play on him? Why not disrupt him? Do you know what I mean? It's like, I think with Boyle, in fairness, like in the league game, they stuck kind of to the same system that they had in the league game. It wasn't that they completely come up with a new system to kind of, you know, that fooled us. They're more or less set up more or less the same as the league game that we hurled them in. Like,
yeah, and we knew they were like coming what they were going to play. They were going to play 7 backs, like, and I it's an experience thing too. I think from the Carlow behalf too, because there's a lot of inexperience there, and that's not a negative comment. It's just a fact. That, you know, they'll figure this out in time. But yeah, just an inexperienced thing in what we're playing. And to give Kerry credit and reflecting in my own head about, I thought they were very well drilled. Looked to be very well coached. Obviously, Stephen Malumpi looked to have a serious job on him. And I think a new thing in the inter-county game, which is not on the club scene, is half backline bombing forward for the number 5 and 7 positions in Kerry. They never stop moving up the line. Our half hour spent more time running back towards our own goal than we did towards their goal, and we kind of didn't know what we were doing. We were losing runners, tracking runners. We were staying with our own man, and they were asking questions. And, you know, right or wrong, if a team come out and play 15 against us, we'd be much more equipped. And we have to learn how to deal with teams that play 7. We have to learn how to play when we have a sweeper. We have to learn how to pick our half hour line with ball that are out around middle of the field and draw out their half back line. We have to be able to go 20 yards short to our 10, 11 and 12. And that would have brought them out the field, but we never found our 10, 11 or 12. We were just landing it. And that'll bring them out, and that'll create more space for Chris and Mouse inside, or whoever was inside in the first half. But we didn't do any of those things. And then, like, if we had been with the wind in the first half, I don't think we would have been any worse in position nearly, you know, and we would have had the wind in the second half. But the fact that we were, again, we had the wind in the first half, you know, it was 8-7, and then they came out like they had the elements in the second half that we really were going to struggle big time.
I think, in fairness, I thought Carlow were fortunate enough to be so close at halftime, considering the first quarter in particular, as you had rightly said, was so poor, and then we kind of got ourselves into it. And halftime probably did come at the wrong time when we were getting that bit of a foothold or whatever. But like, credit to them, as you said, they were well drilled. They did take their chances, you know, at the end of the day, and that's the long and short of it, really.
You're trying to find a positive. I can't find one, to be honest with you. I only like I don't know. Like, I thought John Michael was good in the second half. Other than that, I don't think any of us could say that we won our battle over 70 minutes. Genuinely, like that's just, it's embarrassing is the word. But I kind of come back to, like, just embarrassing because we have standards ourselves, and individually it's embarrassing, and embarrassing as a group of players, because, as I said to you, it wouldn't bother me going out and losing a match by 15 points whatsoever. But it's just the lack of the quality is the embarrassing part.
Last point on it, Paul, before I move on to the next game. Do you get a feel, or did you get a feel in particular on Saturday beforehand, that something like this might happen, even in a warm-up? Do you get, because I often sense like that, even whether it's coaching or whether it's playing, you do get a vibe of what's going on, and you kind of have a feeling when something may or may not go right.
Yeah, and so I know exactly what you mean, and I didn't kind of have that inkling, and with Kerry losing the down, I knew that they had to come with everything that they had, and they were obviously going to be hugely up for I thought it was a great opportunity for us to get 4 points on the board, be in a great position going forward. We spoke about it with the reference beating Westmeath in the league and going out and being flat the following week with reference, and not letting that happen again. Last week's 2 points are gone. Don't think we're better than we are, but take confidence from the win. All those buzzwords were said pre-game. Lads seemed to be up for it. The warm-up was good, but then it was flat from the get-go.
So obviously, like, you can tell you're still hurting a good bit over this. Like, I'd imagine all the lads are hurting a good bit over this, and it can only get better. There's always a reaction. The opposition will help, I would suggest. And sure. Look, I mean, I'd say if you could play the game this minute, like, you'd go play the game. But still, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to do in a week. But like, it's not. I'll put it this way: I don't think it's insurmountable. I think it's fairly basic stuff, like, and stuff that have been going right. So it's not like you're trying to, I suppose, try and pick up on 3 months of work that's gone down to Swanee. Like, it is still basic stuff that needs mending, which would give hope, I would say.
Yeah, I definitely think so. Like, I've never put a jersey on my back and expected to lose going out to play a match, that kind of way. And this Saturday will be no different. And last Saturday was no different, just how it transpired. We didn't digest it too much on Saturday. We were a bit raw and a bit tender. So we said go home, think about it, reflect. All we can do is, like, I can't fucking say you're the problem or someone else is the problem. All I can do is bring my own responsibility to it and my own individual level to tomorrow night, and I'll be hoping that the other 25 lads will be thinking the same way, and that's all we can do to make the training session as good as possible, to improve the standards, to make it as good a session as possible. But regarding the level of hurling, balls have to go to hand at this level. They can't go to feet. Runners have to be tracked. 3 sloppy goals can't be given away. Three awful goals to concede. The puck out caught being uncontested, losing the ball in our cornerback position from having chances to pick it up and then being turned over from a short puck out. All our own errors, kind of. It wasn't that we were blitzed. We didn't know what was going on. We were responsible for, or in a position to stop each of them, and that's kind of anything that it comes back to us and our own level that needs to improve. New camp, it's a transition period. It's a learning curve. I'd say it's a big learning curve this year for a lot of the young crew that are after coming. But they're in there, and they're hungry to be in there, and you can't knock any of the lads that are in there. There's 26 lads in there, or 27. In an ideal world, there's 42 or 3. And everyone in the county is in there. That's good enough to be in there. But in relation to the 26 that are in there, 26 or 7 are training every Tuesday and Friday, and going out every weekend, and we're doing 2 gym sessions a week, and they're giving up 5 nights just for Carlow hurling. So I wouldn't knock any of them that are there. We're all in there to do our best. We're just frustrated with ourselves at the moment from last Saturday's performance. But in relation to this Saturday, it's just the perfect opposition. They don't like us, and we don't like them. But we'll have respect for them that they're a good team, very good team. But it's the same personnel that we've played against in relation to Antrim the last 5 years. To have the hurlers that, Paddy Burks, Owen Campbell, Keelan Malloy, Neil McManus, Kieran Clark, Cunning, Ger Campbell. It's the same personnel that we've played in 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. So it's the very same personnel. They haven't unearthed 5 or 6 new hurlers. They seem to have unity up there, and they have the camp, and they're going the right direction by all accounts. But it's nothing we haven't faced before. The last time we played them, I think, would have been the Joe McDonald, the first match, when we drew him in Carlow maybe 2 years ago. So it's not a new task to us. It's just making sure that the hunger isn't how it does, and the appetite is there to face the battle that's going to come our way.
So it's a 12:30 start on Saturday. So is it a Carrickdale job Friday night, or is it into the car? Yeah. It is. Yeah. Well, sure, that makes sense because that's a fair early start. Like.
It is, and it's too much on the line for getting in the car Saturday morning at 6 or 7 o'clock and getting out. So yeah, we're training tomorrow night, training Thursday night, and then hitting Belfast on Friday. And we'll be up that far. So it's that's fine. We spoke about that going back a week or two, and that's no issue. That's what we wanted to do. So regarding that side of things, that's the plan for the week. Anything could happen.
Yeah, you're damn right. Joe, any question for Paul before we let him off?
No, I think the very last thing he said is exactly the mindset. I think the team, they know themselves, like, right, they didn't perform last week, but but they're capable of a big performance. You know what I mean? I think that's the big thing. It's in the lads there. And I think, again, you're going in with, you mentioned there about Kerry coming up with something to prove, or to get a performance out of themselves. And I think he'll, looking back and even your analysis of your play and your game and your disappointment level as well. I think there's there is that in that team, from knowing the lads who are there, and even you mentioned there the younger lads, but they won't accept that, or they know that there's more there. And I think I'd be looking, you'd be hoping that there's a big performance in you on Saturday, and the best of luck to you in it.
Yeah, cheers, Joe. I'd imagine there's not much between, like, the Joe McDonough obviously awfully played Mead last week, and like 222 to 19 points was just show they could throw up. There's no only, like, last Saturday came, it's done. It was a bad performance. We can't carry it to this Saturday. Park it, it's done. Learn from it and move on. Make sure we learn from it. Don't just park it and not learn from it. Like, so that's all I'd be saying as an individual to the lads tomorrow night. Like, make sure we train hard and get over comfort zone. And in relation to our individualness, if you're not pissed off after last Saturday, then you're only in there for the wrong reasons, or you're only hurling for the wrong reasons, because you'd spend a lot more days with chasing losses than you will wins if you're happy to accept those kind of standards, which we're not. Like, and all I'd just be asking is this Saturday, just to ourselves, is that we fucking have a bit of hunger and appetite. And the most disappointing thing the last day was just how we dropped the heads, but the game wasn't over. Like, we dropped the heads when the second goal went in, or the first goal went in, and we're getting the elements. And like, it was just, that was the most disappointing aspect from a team and a group of individuals. I expect better from ourselves.
Well, listen, as Joe said, the very best luck. We've no doubt there'll be a backlash. And look, thanks for coming on, Paul, and we'll chat to you soon. All right.
No, thanks very much, Kev. Cheers, Joe. Take care.
Right.
Here we go. Honest as always. Fair play to him. Pulls no punches. Never does.
No, in fairness, it's always very, it gives good insight, in fairness to things. You know what I mean?
The heart is on his sleeve, like,
Yeah, well, you wouldn't get any better that way in terms of and the thinking about it as well. He's a deep thinker in terms of stuff like that. And he'd be thinking things out, like, and I think there's a big performance in him. Like, I think that's the thing, the inconsistency factor, isn't it? Like, we're kind of a bit mercurial this year. Like, we can pull something big, or we can just go through the motions. I think looking, like, thinking of Saturday, like, we were, like what you said, Kev, there was kind of the basics. Like, we were just, everything was, if it could go wrong, it did go wrong on Sunday, on Saturday, but we have to learn from that, like, and I think they will get a tune of them. Interesting point that you said there about and I suppose you alluded to as well there about maybe shooting from distance. Sometimes you see some teams now that they are right. Say for us, if we have Mouse and Chris, like, it would have been an opportunity to bring one of them, maybe, or even the two of them out, out to your half forward line or whatever, and shoot from distance, if you get me, to when you have possession around there, if you are able to work the ball to there, to get your better, maybe long range strikers on the ball. It's hard
definitely
to know,
Corrigan Park as well. Absolutely.
Yeah,
I would agree. Other news, I know you're involved with the Celtic Challenge side. They were out, I think, last weekend.
We were, we're out on Saturday. We hurled Westmeath, the second game. Battling performance in Milford, which was an unusual spot for a hurling match, but there was other county games on in the other squads were hurling in the Centre of Excellence in Fenna. So we were in Milford. Battling performance, right? Westmeath beat us. I can't remember whatever the score was. The beat us fairly. If you were to look at the scoreline, you'd say, it was kind of one-sided, but it wasn't. There was only a couple of points in it at half time, and they pulled away with the breeze in the second half. brilliant competition. Hand on heart, I have to say, and I know you were involved in a squad or two that I was involved in, but I have to say the bunch of lads I've never actually worked with is it's probably the most enjoyable squad I've ever worked with in terms of a county setup. The lads are just unbelievably honest and hardworking chaps. They're brilliant to work with, and they're making great strides. You know, the work rate is paying off. So look, we've another game of that. We're hurling Kildare. Maybe not this weekend. It might probably be the following weekend. Not sure, waiting on a fixture. And that'll be our third game in the Celtic Challenge. So yeah, I think things are going well for the lads. You know.
Good stuff. Yeah. The minors Saturday at 12, I think, in Westmead, the
Yeah.
Padre Cup. So best luck there. I'm just going down through the agenda that which we've set out. I want to mention Sean Gannon as well. Obviously, he's taken up the new role at Crow Park, and thank him for everything he's done. What a role model! Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
To have
Not a bad
Sean
golf
Gannon
player.
going in.
Himself and fellow Carlow coach won our golf classic on Friday. So he was.
Oh, very good.
Yeah. Himself and Brendan Hayden. Brendan Hayden was nearest the pin as well. So geez, they're handy. Brendan was handy with a hurd, but geez, he's fairly handy with a golf club as well.
Yeah, that transfers over quite a lot.
Yeah, so it's great. And fairness to Sean, we wished him well. He was obviously he had connections to our own school, a past pupil, and he was out there on the day supporting us. But he's been brilliant for Carlow. And we definitely wish him well. And it's kind of a sign of things like like I always say, Kevin, we do sometimes maybe we don't see the bigger picture sometimes with what we have in our county, and we have some wonderful, while sometimes we don't have maybe all the great days in the pitch, we have some wonderful people who are incredible GA people, like I said there, Sean going onto a national role. I would still say, without picking in particular any of our coaches, but I would still say there's probably no better coach in the whole of the island here than what we have in Brendan Hayden. We have some quality people, Tom Ryan, we've Jim Bulger, who've all filled massive roles. Maria Kinsella. We've people, Carlow people who are right up there in terms of all the roles in the GA and different aspects of the GA, and something to be very proud of as well.
Absolutely, yeah. In fairness, lots of good people doing lots of good things, and something to be proud of. Now, I have a couple of gripes before I finish up, because people have been on to me about it, and notably the actual price of the stream for the John McDonagh Cup game on Saturday was €15. Bit saucy, lads, to be honest with you now. By comparison, Tyson Fury versus Dylan White pay-per-view was $24.95. Like,
yeah.
Do you know?
I'll call it out too, Kevin. I'm a big supporter, and I believe in supporting everything. And I know they have to make money. The county doesn't run without money. I just thought it was a bit much. I thought maybe
the service is great, but the price is
service was brilliant, and obviously we have our own buddy Stevie on it, and Tommy were brilliant. And
I was thinking Stevie must be charging a fortune if it's 15 quid.
He's not on nights tonight at all. He's over in Barbados or somewhere. But I agree. I thought maybe it was maybe poorly priced, maybe with the idea of the Kerry people wouldn't travel. I thought they got that one wrong. In fairness, the service is great. In fairness, it's been brilliant. Won't be critical of it. Maybe that time around.
It's a great service, by the way. Yeah, I'm not taking that away from
maybe that time around. I call it, and I'm sure they will too. Maybe look back and say, maybe it was a bit overpriced for that. But look, the service is good. But yeah, it was a bit saucy at 15 quid. Yeah.
Second and final gripe, and it's been said by a lot of people as well. I think we need to look at this hashtag Carlow Rise and Crack, because at the moment, and players have said this as well, it's a bit embarrassing. Like, to look at a scoreline there when you see 321 to 15 points and Carlow rising underneath it, and when you see 510 to 10 points and Carlow rising underneath it, I don't know. Like I want to articulate this the best way I can, right? But that worked very well a few years ago, and it became a thing, and it became a big thing, right? And it worked well in the situation that we were in at the time. We're now in a very different situation. Things have moved on. Like, I think it's a little bit embarrassing. I think it's a bit unfair on the players as well, because they're getting stick. There's stuff about it on social media. The players, maybe they don't care, but they still see it, and it does have a kind of a knock-on effect. So I just don't know, lads. A lot of people are kind of talking about it on social media. I would think maybe it's time to have a little rethink and maybe look at another hashtag, or just wait until we get into a better place. And that's just my own personal thoughts on it. We're here to be honest. We always are. We praise a lot of things that Carlow GAA do well. I have very good friends in there. I have no problems against anyone. But we're also here to point out things that we're just giving an opinion on and we feel honestly about. And that's it. End of the day. I'm not going to fall out with anyone. That's all it is.
Yeah, I'd agree. I probably agree with you. I can't say I notice it, as in I notice it much in terms of on the bottom of tweets and all. But I suppose, I mean, in fairness, it was brilliant. When it was good, it was very good because the whole country was talking about it. But it's like everything; it's kind of a double-edged sword. Maybe when things aren't going your way or things aren't, it can be.
But why do you think about?
And if I just say, I had very first-hand experience of it last year, when I was involved with the senior hurlers in terms of an opponent deciding to shout it across at us on the line. When things weren't going well for us at a particular time. But anyway, look.
The chaps as well, though, that's what I'm thinking of. Like, it's been there for underage games where, like, just say 20 footballers got a bad blame, and that's underneath it.
The message is meant to be positive, and and it is. We understand that the idea of lifting, and you're always looking for the future and all. But look, it is what it is. Like, look, that's
it is what it is. But onwards and upwards anyway. The Antrim game Saturday, minors out, minor footballers out Wednesday.
Never mentioned social hurlers, Kev.
Social hurlers won, be Jesus. He won the Blitz above and
big one. The one positive news story to come out with Carlow GAA in the last week.
It was absolutely brilliant. I was delighted for you now, to be honest. Sean McMahon, former Carlow hurler, got player of the tournament, did he?
Yeah, he was brilliant. Yeah, all the lads were. Asher was brilliant crack. To give the lowdown, we ended up with kind of two teams and two panels, but we in fairness, our sessions go ahead with the lads from across the border from St. Martin's and Erin's Own come into Carlow and play with us. So they were caught in terms of bodies. So what we did was the three setups went up, and whoever we had, we said we divide between the three. So we hurled away, and because looking at it, there was every sort of making shape of lad up there, but we didn't think we'd progress. But my team, the grey Carlow team, actually got knocked out, and the green Carlow team ended up winning all their games. So I ended up hurling with Castlecomer in the semi-final and the final. So I ended up hurling against the setup that I'm involved in organising, as I say. So I ended up hurling against them in the final. But it was unbelievable that they got there. But apart from that crack, it's a great old thing. We're looking to expand the whole time. So if anyone is interested in coming in to hurl with us, I suppose with the longer evenings now, the sessions are kind of week by week, as we see with numbers. But if anyone's interested, follow us on Facebook or Twitter, or most people have my number at this stage anyway, and we'll add you to the group. If you're not in the group now, there's about 400, I'd say, in the group at this stage. So, but look, if you want to come on board, there's no bother at all.
Deadly stuff. Last but not least, I nearly forgot this. The Leinster Under-16 B Camogie final, 3:30 on Sunday at the Centre of Excellence in Fennes, Carlow versus Laois, and talk about heritage and players. So, Aoibhinn Dowling, niece of Declan Kavanagh, and obviously that would be cousin of Marty, Jack and Chris. Molly Kavanagh, daughter of James Kavanagh in St. Mullins. Niamh Tracy, daughter of Derry Tracy, a social hurler as well. Claude Lawler, captain, daughter of Brian Lawler, another social hurler, I think. Roisin Joyce, daughter to Joanne Joyce and Michael of All-Ireland fame. Leah Ryan, niece of Micheál Ryan in St. Mullins, another fabulous hurler. Aoibhinn Coady, daughter of a good friend of ours, Pat Coady. My O'Toole sister, Fiach, who's on the senior hurling panel from their breed. And look, we just want to say the very best luck to the girls, and hopefully they can get a result. Good stuff indeed. That's where we have to leave it. I think, Joe, thanks a million.
Okay.
Appreciate it. And we do it all again next week. And just to mention as well, if anyone wants to get in touch with us regarding sponsorship, you can send us a DM. We do have a Buy Me a Coffee link up there as well. If you like what we do and want to support the service that we provide, you can do so for the price of a coffee. If you don't want that, it's grand. We enjoy the crack anyway. That's the whole all of it, as the fella said. Look, don't forget, you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram, and also subscribe on YouTube, and follow for free on Apple, Spotify, etc, etc, etc. That's where we leave it, ladies and gentlemen. As we said, thanks for joining us again this evening. We will be back again on Monday next, and hopefully we'll be talking about some positive results for our teams on the field of play, and the very best luck to everyone again.